Member Burns,
Here.
Member Neary,
Here.
Member Baker,
Here.
Member Haas,
Here.
Member Lynn,
Here.
City Administrator Gibson,
Here.
City Attorney Ennis.
Here.
All right, prepare and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, anyone would like to address council, go to the podium, state your name and address, and address council. Podium is right over there.
Good evening. My name is David Culp. I reside at 320 6th Avenue in Dayton, Kentucky. Been a citizen of the city of Dayton for approximately 40 years. I'm here tonight with some of my neighbors at 300 block of 6th Street and 300 block of 8th Street. We are here to address a cat problem. First of all, many times if no one brings anything to your attention, you think everything is pretty much okay. I'd like to thank Mayor Boreski and Officer Lyles. They are aware of this situation and they've started to work on it. We have a problem with the house next door, a piece of rental property. There's broken windows, and up until last week, there's vents on the side of this building that lets airflow through the basement of the building. Those vents were open. The storm door and door itself were broken, and cats were going in and out of that building. If I'd like to, I would like to take a couple minutes and read Dayton City Codes. Every owner of a dog or a cat within the corporate limits of the city shall be required to purchase annually an animal license from the city clerk treasurer's office or from any person appointed by the mayor to collect the fee and pay the sum of $5 for each of these licenses. All licenses are to be purchased no later than July 15th of each year and shall be valid until July 14th of the following year. The owner shall provide to the collector the age, breed, sex, and color of each animal to be licensed. This week I checked with the city of Dayton to see if any license for cats or dogs were sold to the property at 316 6th Avenue in Dayton. They informed me that no license were bought for last year or for this year. Also, it shall be unlawful for any residents of any housing unit to maintain more than 2 dogs or 2 cats at any one time. It should be unlawful for the owner of any dog or cat, licensed or unlicensed, to permit the dog or cat to leave or be beyond the private premises upon which the dog or cat is kept, except when accompanied or controlled by its owner and secured by means of a collar or harness with chain or leash attached thereto and held by the owner. Said owner should not permit the dog or cat to be present upon any public property unless the requirements of this section are met. Furthermore, the owner shall not permit the dog or cat to go up on private property of another without the permission of the owner of such private property. It shall be unlawful for any person to possess, harbor or keep any dog or cat that by its habitual barking, howling, or other act causes public alarm, annoyance, or disturbance. I look at it this way. If you have windows open, doors broken, you are harboring cats if they are getting into your building. Removal of excrement required. No person shall allow any animal under his or her control to be up on public property or up on the property of another, absent consent of the owner, occupant of the property, without some device for the removal and containment of the animal's excrement. Should any person fail to remove any excrement deposited by any animal under his or her control on public property or private property of another. Basically, I've been to fiscal court in Newport. I've called the Joe Ewald in Fort Thomas, talked to him. I know that the city of Dayton is in with the county as far as animal control. Is that correct? That we pay part of Terry Baker's salary. Bellevue pays part of it, Newport, Silver Grove, Fort Thomas. Terry Baker comes to my home and has sort of explained the situation to me, or how the county and the city works. We come and collect cats, we spay and neuter them, and then we bring them back to the neighborhood. Okay? Well, I asked Terry Baker, why are you leaving a 40-pound bag of cat food at this location? Well, the way Terry explained it to me is this is not bought by the county. This is provided by a donor. Okay? My question is, why is a animal control person in uniform bringing food to this location? After Terry Baker came to our house, she never came back again. I called Joe in Fort Thomas again. They sent somebody from the county. They went over and explained the same situation to us. This is basically what she told us. We cannot tell this lady not to feed the cats, but we're going to educate her on feeding them once a day, and then if they don't eat, we're going to tell her to remove the food. Well, they left the last part of the puzzle out. They didn't potty train the cats. Went this past week on Tuesday, animal control left 6 cages on the porch of 316 6th Avenue. I went out the next morning. She left 6 cages, 6 cans of cat food. I went out the next morning. There's 5 cages still on the porch and no cat food. Later on that day, animal control comes, and the county vehicle picks up the 5 cages, drives around the corner into the alley. Jennifer Williams has it on camera. Miller, I'm sorry. And within a matter of minutes, they put the cages in that yard and they take the cats out. Next day, they bring the cats back and physically give them back to this lady at 316 6th Avenue. My question to you all is why, if these are stray animals, why are they leaving 6 cages at one location? and then going around the back of the house and taking 6 cages full of cats out of this one location. We have it on camera of Terry Baker, Animal Control, getting a 40-pound bag of cat food out of her vehicle and personally giving it to this lady at 316 6th Avenue. You know, they would, this is funny, they would educate the person on how to, can't tell you how not to feed cats, but we can educate you on how to feed them. To me, that's like, as a terrorist, we cannot tell you not to use this bomb, but we're going to show you how to build one. Our feeling, our neighbors here, we're having a lot of trouble with being able to sleep at night. Jennifer has expressed concern because she has a
life security system, and I have security lights, and I had to actually turn them off because the cats are continuously keeping my security lights on. Gary Baker's not paying my electric bill, neither is my lieutenant at that address, so I decided to just turn them off. So now I can't tell what's going on in my alley, which is not really very safe, because I had one behind my alley and one that runs alongside.
Bill Gunning lives on the other side of 316. Bill Gunning goes out to cut his grass. Bill, you can't even go out there, you gag him when you go out to cut the grass because there's so much in his yard.
Yeah, they use my yard for the boxes, you know, flower beds, vegetable garden, my raised beds.
Mrs. Turner, same thing, they're going in her flower beds.
They're constantly going to the bathroom, in our flower beds, in our yard. I have my grandkids there, so we're always got to go out there and pick up this cat feces. We don't have cats. We don't want cats. We don't feed cats. We pay our taxes. Those people there, they're renting property. They don't care. We talk to them. They don't care. We would like something to be done about it.
Mr. Brockman,
Same problem, but I want to know how fast it's going to be done.
he leaves
I was
it.
there wondering if that lady's taking her cats right now. You think she is?
Somebody was moving from there. Moving.
Throw out a truck.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, okay.
What I think is they basically, unbeknownst to themselves, Animal Control has basically trained these cats by feeding them, showing her how to feed them. These aren't stray cats. They need to be taken from the neighborhood. You cannot bring them back to this neighborhood because Animal Control has trained them. They trained them to be at this location, and if you bring them back, they're going right back to that location.
Yeah, Mr. Culp, I appreciate you coming in, and I appreciate everybody coming. I don't think they quite believed me when I was telling them on the phone over the last couple of days that this isn't just a one neighbor problem, it's a neighborhood problem. I don't know if you had more, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'd be happy to address the situation.
Well, I'm going to fiscal court because I'm not after the city.
Sure.
I want you to understand that. Because the city is going by code. But Animal Control is not. They're the one who created the problem.
Yeah, that's the issue we have. We really have the issue on two fronts. Obviously, from a code enforcement perspective and a property maintenance perspective, we have some leverage on 318 6th Avenue on how it's, the shape it's in and what they're doing from a building and code enforcement perspective. So we're taking that out there. Where there's the big disconnect is what the county and animal shelter have implemented as their practices for this type of problem. In my opinion, the catch, spay and neuter and release program, while they can speak much better about it than I can, and there's Obviously, there's some reports across the country where this is a benefit to the cat population. In my opinion, is meant for problems when you have 1 or 2 cats running around and you take them, stay near them, and you bring them back. This is completely opposite of what we're dealing with when you're dealing with colonies of cats. It's something,
8 to 10.
yeah, it's something totally outside the realm, and that's what we have been upset with over the last week or so, is that we're trying to explain to them that while we understand what their program is and they're trying to abide by their program, that this is an isolated incident, at least to date, in 2 separate spots. You mentioned the 300 block of 6 and the 300 block of 8, that where catch and spay and neuter and release is not going to solve the problem, especially when you have a neighbor that's continuing to feed the animals. What's even worse is that the food seems to be coming from animal control. The other problem, Terry's completely removed herself from the situation, which is who we contract with through the county, and we've got an animal shelter that has its own kind of rules and regulations. So I understand you all's concern, and we're continuing to fight on your behalf to the county. Conversations I had today was that they weren't looking to take the cats, at least today or tomorrow. They were going out to talk with the tenant at 318 and tell her that she absolutely has to stop feeding the cats or they will take them. Because that has to be, 316, I'm sorry, that has to be the next step. But this is a case outside the realm of what their program was, in my opinion. And the only way I think that you're going to fix the problem is taking it away and not bringing it back. So that's what we're trying to get for you all. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but we're going to continue to fight it for you all to get it solved as quickly as we can. So there's 2 areas that we're trying to address it on. One from the...
I have a smaller way you could probably fix the problem, sir.
I bet you could.
I mean, it's simple and easy and nice. Have the landlord stay there for a week. I'm sure that the cats will be gone the next day.
Well, the issue I have is, I was present with Dave when Terry actually sent one of her workers over to smooth the situation over, because I actually asked her if that's what she was sent, and she said yes, indeed, did she not, that she was sent to just smooth things over. And they said, what their justification is, they are considered wildlife. I'm like, they are a domesticated animal, they are not wildlife. If that's the case, then we're allowed to put mole poison in a mole hole in our yard. So that means we could put something up to actually rid the cats, which I would not, I'd rather not do, you know, but it's just
The
something.
might of our ordinance says you cannot have more than 2 cats.
I
So,
understand.
does our ordinance, does county ordinance
Override.
supersedes the city ordinances?
No, I mean, we can view it as those are her cats. The county's going to view it as they're stray animals. She just happens to feed them. They're going to hang around the house. So it's.
And I actually went to her as a neighbor and asked her to please stop feeding the cats. And Dave was present as well when I did that. And she said, well, I called Terry Baker. She said everything's okay. So she's.
You've got 3 different. You've got a city, you've got a county, and you've got an animal shelter. And
But you said you were going to fiscal court.
I'm going to fiscal court tomorrow because the way I look at it, these aren't stray cats. When animal control comes to one location, leaves cages at one location, and then takes the cats to that location, those are not stray animals. I don't care what the county says. I don't care about their program. We want these cats out of there. Very simple.
I agree with you. I don't think it should be.
Let me read you something. This is from the Dayton Community News. You're going to like this. Barking dog complaints. One of the most common complaints calls I get is regarding barking dogs. I understand the dogs bark. However, it is very disrespectful to your neighborhood. Do you know that a barking dog can reduce your neighborhood's property value? Points to consider. You may have a neighbor with a sensory sensitivity. Maybe your neighbor has sleepless nights. Maybe your neighbor would like to enjoy their own yard in peace and quiet. Maybe your neighbor took on a different shift at work and just sleeps. Leaving your dog to bark and disrupt the community is a nuisance. You can get a citation. If your neighbors were playing loud music or shooting off fireworks, that would be disturbing to you. A barking dog is no different. Please understand it is your job to control your dog. Please do not blame the wildlife cats, pedestrians that walk by your yard. Training goes a long way and helps you build a better relationship with your dog and neighbors. I can give you a perfect example. I am very lucky and can tune out barking dogs to get my work done. If dogs are barking in the animal control van, I can still concentrate on the road and drive. When I work at adoption sites or clean kennels, I can tune them out and get my work done. However, when I was pregnant, my sensory toleration changed. My neighbor had 2 schnauzers. If you ever heard a schnauzer bark, you would know it's very high pitched, and nails on the chalkboard would be similar. Every morning he would get up and let the dogs out, and they would bark and run up and down the fence line. I was neighborly and explained my issue. I also gave him tips to solve the problem for both of us. Only in the morning he agreed to let only one at a time. That was enough for me to relieve some stress from the noise. Very funny. You know who wrote this article? Terry Baker, Animal Control. What's amazing is that she can tune out while she's working, but if 2 dogs next door to her start barking, she's lost her sensory toleration.
Terry Baker, Terry Baker works for the county, but she's contracted with Bellevue, Dayton,
And
not Newport,
Fort Thomas.
Fort Thomas.
Newport's not enough.
Fort Thomas, Highland Heights, I believe, Silver Grove and Cold Springs, I believe it's them on this. And her job is to do our animal control. But when she gets to the county, to the animal shelter, they have control to say, we're not gonna take that cat, or we're gonna spay and neuter it, you gotta take it back. And that's where the problem, and that's where this thing's breaking down. My advice to you is, like you said you're gonna do, is go to the fiscal court tomorrow, but we're still gonna work on this issue. We're not gonna just forget about it, we're still working on it. But, you know, there's some people that we can't get a hold of because they're on vacation now, but we've been working on it since I talked to you and to Jennifer. We've been working on it, and we're not gonna give up on it.
I'll close in saying this. Mr. Gunning, Mrs. Miller, Mr. Brockman, Mrs. Turner, and myself, we've lost our sensory toleration.
I understand. Anyone would like to address? Go ahead. Anyone else? Go ahead.
My name is Miriam Craig, 412 6th Avenue, Dayton, Kentucky. Been a resident all my life, and I won't say how long. I'm here tonight to address the issue about hiring a chief of Dayton. And everything I've got on my little note was on the City of Dayton website. And I asked questions, I posted questions on line Friday night, and I didn't get any answers. And I don't know if you don't answer publicly or you wait till something like this. But online, it said that they were asking for resumes again. Why are they asking for resumes again? The chief has been retired since January 31st, and we still don't have a chief. March 29th, Michael Griffin turned 8 resumes over to the mayors of Dayton and Bellevue. Interviews were held April 19th through the 23rd. Why hasn't anyone been hired within the department? Because I know there are a couple that are qualified for the job. And why wasn't the acting chief, why isn't he promoted to this job? They are overly qualified and they're dedicated to the city of Dayton and Bellevue. For many years, no one knows the city's community, excuse me, I lost my place. No one knows the community like the members of the Bellevue Dayton Fire Department who spent several years in this community. Then on April 30th, The majority of the board recommended Chief Michael Autry for the chief position. The offer was extended to him. On June 1st, it was stated he declined the chief position after the state of Kentucky conducted an investigation about the retire and rehire attempt, which is not acceptable in the state of Kentucky, which I understand. Now both cities agreed to re-advertise the position again. The deadline for that is June the 14th. What happened to the 8 people that were interviewed back in April? Why wasn't one of them hired?
Well, it was actually, or Mary, it was actually 6 that was given to the 2 mayors to interview.
I read 8 on the.
There was 8 that came in total.
Okay.
The city managers got it down to 6. We
Okay.
interviewed the 6. We picked Autry for the chief. He had so much time, it went to the fire board, they approved that. He had so much time for the fire board to get back to them. He waited, whatever length he said it was, whatever date it was, and he just declined the position. So our next step is to go back out.
Well, what happened to the resumes that was handed in back in April or March? Why weren't one of them?
Well, I don't want to get into each individual, why this one wasn't chosen or that. Autry was the best selection of what we had.
I don't agree. I mean, you've got 2 right now, and you know who they are. They've been with the fire department for years. They put in for the chief, and one is the active chief right now. Well, he wasn't one of them permitted. Now we're gonna hire outside the company, for the city, I mean?
We're going to take applications again to see what is up there.
Mayor, I was going to bring this up myself tonight. I was talking to the mayor earlier about this, and I was going to bring it up. And I totally agree with you 100% that, I see no reason to re-advertise, and especially re-advertise a position with no qualifications listed. I mean, you could get anybody to apply for that position. And I agree also that you have qualified people within that department. I've worked with those guys, I know their capabilities, and I know that they're very well qualified to do that job. Here, if you come and decide, basically you're telling these guys they don't have a snowball's chance in hell, because what's coming out that I'm reading. I'm very disappointed in the fire board for the way they handled this whole thing from the get-go, from February 1st till today. I am very disappointed in the way that board has acted. You've got people qualified. Use them. Why go out and solicit more resumes? And to me, you're wasting a lot of people's time by having them fill out applications anyway. Whenever you do interviews and you got 5 people, you normally pick the top one, and then you have somebody on standby in case of this situation of happening where Mike Autry declined the job. I'm just blown away with this whole thing, and I think it needs to be corrected and taken care of properly.
Why can't you go back to the, did you throw all those resumes away that you interviewed?
Anybody can reapply. It's already out there till the 14th, and we'll just have to see. It's already there, so the 14th, we'll have to meet again, and we'll
Why
figure out
is
what's going on.
it taking 6 months to decide this?
And, and you gave the job to a gentleman, which I think he's done a good job from what I could see, as acting chief. And I know not always does the acting chief get the job. That doesn't always happen. But, I still got to reiterate the fact that you've got qualified people within that department, and you already interviewed. And you said you took the top one. Okay, then the next 2 should be the people that he trained. So they should be qualified, which, like I said, I know they are qualified. Hell, I trained them.
I sit on the fire board, Denny. I echo your comments. You know my vote on the personnel decision. I do not sit on the personnel committee, but I do believe that we should hire within. Mr. Haas is the chairperson for the committee, so maybe you can better answer, but that's,
Who did the interview last night? Who actually sat in on the interview?
The personnel committee and the mayors.
The two mayors and the personnel committee? And the committee is, personnel committee is,
It's Sarah and Dave Slater from Bellevue.
and so I guess they'll be the ones doing the interview again.
I didn't see any of the resume. I had noticed saying that.
Well, you know, we all know that there's been some problems leading up with this whole thing that went on. And I'm just hoping that these two people on the fire board especially are a little bit more open-minded when it comes to the people they're interviewing, that they, let's say, don't take it out on the two department people, the two captains basically, for voicing their opinion about different things, because I mean, what the heck, that's what you gotta do to let people know what's going on.
I don't think that's the case at all.
No, that's all I got to say.
If I may,
Thank you.
Danny,
Thanks, Mary.
your opinion on this. I think, looking at the whole interlocal agreement, and Virgil, this is nothing against you, we ran into this with the last administration too. I think the mayors have too much power. The mayors appoint the board members, the mayors appoint the citizen board member, and the mayors do the hiring. And I really think that should be the board's responsibility, not only to decide which of us two council people will serve, but also picking the citizen. The problem is you get politics involved, and you get just two people that can sway it one way or the other. And I think making it more of a council appointing the representative, the council representatives on the board, council appointing the citizen representatives on the board, and then the personnel committee on the board should be making these decisions. I know that takes rewriting the interlocal agreement, which would have to be agreed to with Bellevue, but don't you think that would be a better solution than what we're going through?
You know, myself and John Daly put the merger together, and then a city week went over. We put a board together to where there's a board, because right now, you can end up in a 3-3 tie and it goes nowhere, it's for naught. We had a 7-person board set up, and we even had appointments by outside of, not mayors or anybody making an appointment. And that all switched around, and that's how that ended up. Yes, I think you're right, Joe, I think that would help make a difference. Because apparently it's not working the way it is right now. But I will tell you that I'm not sure, I've talked to a couple of board members, and a lot of things that go on, and I'm going to say this because I've been there, never went on while I was there. Things were ran totally different because the board had a lot of control, and they demanded some answers of me, and I had to show them. To me, I've seen a lot of things slide by that board that they didn't demand answers to. And I think that's one of the big problems too. It's just, everything just flies right on by.
I think maybe with Attorney Edge and the attorney for Bellevue and the fire board attorney, I think we need to look at the interlocal agreement and fine tune it. 95% of it's good, but I think this shows one of the flaws in it.
I know it was just done again, and I mean, to me, everything has some things that need to be relooked. I agree.
Well, I think it's much more than 95%. I mean, it's been pretty apparent that, not just through this process, but from my experience, just in being in my position for 5 years, there's things that need to be changed. A lot has changed over the 5 to 10 years. It's not set up to address certain things. I would totally agree.
Well, I'm with Danny. I think the board needs to be more accountable rather than the mayors and the administration of both cities.
The mayors, once the mayors appoint the board runs the fire board.
That's not what's going on here with this hiring.
Well, the mayors do.
Let's go, yeah, I mean, that's where we're running into, because it's written in the interlocal that the fire chief is appointed or recommended by the 2 mayors, and then
Right, and those are little things I think we need to fine tune. And you don't find out you have a problem until it becomes a problem.
Right.
You need to address it. So what is the June 14th is the closing date, and when do you expect to make a decision?
Before the next board meeting.
Which is what date?
20th or 20th.
They're talking with Keith today, they're going to start resume, or they're going to start interviews after the 14th, so it's really, I guess it's the 15th that we have.
I echo Mary's comments on hiring from within. We're building this team up. They care a lot about this city. I've met a lot with them over the last few months, and for us to be able to promote them to a better job, we'll keep the stickiness of the group together and keep the services that are provided to the city in a better situation than finding someone from an outside source. I think we have a great team in the fire department, and we need to definitely look at them for a possible move up.
Anyone else have anything?
I agree 100%.
All right. Anyone else like to address Buddy?
Kathy Gordon, 314 4th. My issues are super small, so comparatively speaking, this should be a piece of cake. There is, and I'm 99% sure Virgil is keenly aware of it, there is a tree stump that's in front of my property that is hazardous, to say the least. When the tree was cut down, it was, the stump was left just high enough so that it becomes a great jumping off point for kids, which is fine and dandy, except for the fact that if you pull up a car to park at the curb, you could lose the bottom panel of your car on the tree stump. And it was my understanding a couple of years ago that the city was going to make an effort to reduce the nuisance value of that tree stump. And in the time that has lapsed from the time the tree was taken down, the sidewalk has now lifted where the tree stump is, and it has pretty much, we'll just say, misaligned my concrete wall, which I'm not terribly happy about, because I can't improve it until the situation is resolved. So it impacts on my property value, it impacts on the visual appeal of the street, not to mention the safety factor of that tree stump and the sidewalk. So if there's anything that can be done, because it was told to neighbors and to myself that the city was looking at where these nuisance or challenges with tree stumps are, and that it was going to be addressed, it never has been.
What's that address?
314 4th. Because I am terrified of a kid tripping over the edge of that sidewalk, and it's happened more than once.
We'll look at tomorrow.
I appreciate that.
I know that tree stump is horrible.
Isn't it though?
I mean, if you have a passenger in the vehicle, because the passenger,
Exactly right.
they can't open their door.
Exactly right.
It takes away, basically takes away a parking spot on an already tight street.
Yes, that is true.
So if we can remove that and replace it
That would be-
with concrete, I don't know if we can or not.
I think it would behoove the safety factor, and all of the citizens, not just of our street, but anyone who chooses to walk down the street, because look, I kid you not, I watched little kids stumble and almost go face first into the tree stump or the sidewalk, and that scares the crap out of me. The other I view to be an issue that you probably can't address, but I at least want you to be mindful of it. The stop sign that was put in pretty much at the corner of 5th and O'Fallon, going northbound toward Manhattan Harbor. I have almost been T-boned no less than 5 times because some of the trucks even going into Manhattan Harbor ignore that stop sign. Part of it is because it's offset because of where the pavement is, but there have been several presumably local drivers who have also blown right past it, and it has scared me numerous times. I'm not a timid driver, so if it scares me, it's probably would scare anybody else. If there's any way to either address the placement of or something, it would be, again, I view it as a safety issue.
I've been down the street so many times, it's just a
weird
traffic interception now.
Well, and honestly, too, if you're trying to get from that little section of 5th onto O'Fallon and you're going towards 6th, I can't see around the shrubbery from Manhattan Harbor to see who's coming up O'Fallon from the bottom. So it can be that whole cluster.
It's not ideal.
You think?
too, the stop sign going south on Fountain is gone now.
Oh, is it?
So
Okay.
people kind of got used to that stop sign being there, and you stop and you don't see anything, you go.
What,
And
Bellevue?
the stop sign is now gone.
On Bellevue side or
It was on
Maybe
David's
our
side,
side.
wasn't it?
It was on the pole on our side of the street.
That's what I thought.
And
They're
it's gone
replaced.
now. I noticed it the other day.
Yeah, can we get that replaced, because it only takes
I
one
got
T-bone
each
to.
out.
We'll look at it tomorrow, yeah.
I wouldn't mind so much if it wasn't my side of the car that was going to get hit, I suppose.
We'll take a look at, that sign also.
Appreciate it. And lastly, even though it is not something I plan to say, I really do encourage you to seriously do what you can to consider promotion from within in the fire department, if for no other reason than it damages morale when you can't, or when you say you can't. And I think that's critical to basically all of us, because if there is not confidence in the governing body that you have an opportunity to elevate within the ranks, why would you stay? Just saying.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Beth Newman, 625 10th Street. I'd like to talk about, just real quick, at the Main Street. I've been the chair of the Main Street for about 2.5 years, 3 years. And we put together a campaign to encourage and support all the restaurants that we have community Dayton. Currently, I think we have 8 going on 9 or whatever. And so we put together a little promotion. It's called I Ate in Dayton. We have 7 restaurants signed up right now, and we're waiting on responses from another 2. It's probably going to start in mid-June, and let's see, they'll get a punch card, and all the restaurants will be listed on it, and each visit, you get punched, you get 8% off your bill, not including alcohol, and at the end, you get a free Dayton t-shirt. So, the participating restaurants, which are almost, I guess, kind of all of them, we'll have it at the host stand, these cards. There'll be a claim on the window with more information, and then we'll be selling the t-shirts too. So I just wanted to tell you that. That's the little logo that we came. It's I Ate Dayton, and the 8 is for Route 8. So also Ben brought up the Catalytic Fund had the picnic table project this month, where communities all around northern Kentucky came to picnic table. Communities, companies, whatever, we sent one from Dayton. We put the branding for this campaign on that picnic table. So I kind of like to have it considered that we put it in Monument Park during the course of the promotion, which will end in the beginning of September, so, as it's centrally located where all the restaurants are, to advertise their promotion. So that will be, that picnic table will be unveiled June 16th on the Perfect People Bridge. There'll be a big party at that. And questions?
Can we do that? Michael? No, you should probably come to the party.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Put the table in 6 and Barry. Fantastic. Awesome work on that branding, by the way. It looks
That's
incredible.
Doug, he's super awesome.
Doug, you should look into that for a job.
Are those going to be distributed outside of the restaurants here in town?
The punch cards?
Yeah.
The t-shirts? The punch cards are going to be at each individual restaurant, but we're going to have a Facebook page.
Because I can take a bunch to work
Then do
and
that.
hand them out and get
Yeah,
some
we
people
would
down
like
there.
to distribute them as widely as possible, because it's just to get business in. Hopefully they'll have their one visit with the 8% off, but that will introduce them to the restaurant and they'll be familiar with it and be able to have it. We'll have the Facebook page, and, I'll beg local news organizations. And, so it'll go throughout the summer. All right, thank you.
Anyone else like to address council? All right, moving on. At this time, I need a motion to appoint Bob Schrader and Troy Baldy
Yeah.
And Mark Ewing to the Ethics Committee.
Have a question, sir?
Go ahead.
What about the two current members of the Ethics Committee, Mr. Frank and
Mr. Frank resigned from the Ethics Committee and wanted to be appointed to the board.
What about Mr. Pearson?
There's still on here.
So this will make three on the
This will
committee.
make three.
I'll make the motion to appoint Bob Schrage and Mark Ewing to the Ethics Committee.
Second. By Joe, second by Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? So ordered. Next is a motion to appoint Rick Banks, Jim Townsley, and Mandy Metz to the Board of Court Commission.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second.
second by Jeff. Any comments?
I appreciate everybody who serves on every board in this city. It takes a lot of time and effort sometimes. That's it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Next, approval of the minutes from the January 1st, 2018 public hearing and regular council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Denny, second by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Next is the resolution 2018-8, FEMA agent appointment. Tiffany?
City of Dayton, Kentucky, Resolution 2018 number 8. A resolution by the City of Dayton, Kentucky to appoint the city administrator as the agent for the purpose of obtaining federal financial assistance.
Need a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Ben. Second. Second by Jeff. Any comments? Roll call.
Member Lynn?
Aye.
Member Burns?
Aye.
Member Neary?
Aye.
Member Baker?
Aye.
Member Haas?
Aye.
So ordered. Next on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance second reading of ordinance 2018 number 3. Franchise for cable, internet, and TV. Tiffany?
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance 2018 number 3. An ordinance of the City of Dayton in Campbell County, Kentucky, establishing a non-exclusive franchise for use of the public streets, alleys, and other public grounds of the city for cable television systems, internet, or telephone services within the city and providing the terms thereof. This ordinance establishes a non-exclusive franchise for the use of the public streets, alleys, and other public grounds in the city for the transmission and distribution of either television, internet, or telephone services for a combination thereof, through and for consumption within the city and provides the terms thereof.
I said franchise, cable, internet, and telephone.
I make a motion, we approve 2018 number 3.
Motion by Denny. Second. Second by Bill. Any comments? Roll call.
Member Burns?
Aye.
Member Neary?
Aye.
Member Baker?
Aye.
Member Haas?
Aye.
Member Lynn?
Aye. So ordered. Next is ordinance 2018-4, Main Street Manager to Economic Development Director.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance 2018-4, an ordinance amending the title of Main Street Manager to Economic Development Director. This ordinance amends section 31.65 of the City of Dayton Code of Ordinances to change the official position and title of Main Street Manager to Economic Development Director.
Need a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve 2018 number 4.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second.
second by Ben. Any comments? Roll call.
Member Neary?
Aye.
Member Baker?
Aye.
Member Haas?
Aye.
Member Lynn?
Aye.
Member Burns?
Aye. So ordered. Next is ordinance 2018-5, amending the job classification system.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance 2018 number 5. An ordinance amending ordinance 2017 number 20, setting forth compensation number of authorized positions for employees under the Dayton job classification system. This ordinance amends the Dayton job classification system by only amending the official title name of the Main Street Manager to the new title Economic Development Director.
Need a motion?
Make a motion to accept 2018 number 5.
Motion by Joe,
Second.
second by Jeff. Any comments? Roll call.
Member Baker?
Aye.
Member Haas?
Aye.
Member Lynn?
Aye.
Member Burns?
Aye.
Member Neary?
Aye. So ordered. Next is ordinance 2018, number 6, TIF district for Red Knox Holdings.
Ordinance 2018 number 6, an ordinance establishing a local development area for economic development purposes within the city of Dayton, Kentucky, to be known as the Podlon Point Local Development Area. Approving a local development area agreement among the city and the county of Campbell, Kentucky, Renat Holdings LLC, and the city clerk's department, establishing an incremental tax special fund for payment of redevelopment assistance, designating the city clerk's department of the city of Dayton, Kentucky, as the agency responsible for oversight, administration, and implementation of the local development area, and authorizing the mayor and other officials to take such other appropriate actions as are necessary or required in connection with the establishment of the local development area.
Motion.
I'll make the motion that we accept ordinance 2018, number 6.
Motion by Ben,
Second.
second by Denny. Any comments?
I have one comment there. Have they given us any kind of time frame on when they're going to do the development there?
Mark's here. Mark, do you want to jump in? Take it?
We intend to begin building on O'Fallon almost immediately.
I see you got the one house.
Yeah, so our intent is to
80%
work up O'Fallon and then work over the top of 10th towards Walnut on the top of the hill. So we intend to begin some clearing work almost immediately with construction following in the next couple months.
I just want to remind you, sir, when you was at the meeting last month, one of the questions that arose, and I wanted you to be aware of, you told me there would be a retention wall of some sort going across 10th Street. Well, hopefully you will adhere to that, because if you don't, you will hear from me.
We do. It won't happen until the second phase of the project, so it'll
I
be.
understand. I'm not ready to leave this world yet, but I'm going to keep you to your promise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Member Haas?
Aye.
Member Lynn?
Aye.
Member Burns? Member Neary? Member Baker?
Aye. So ordered. Next is the first reading of ordinance 2018, number 7, vacant property registration fee.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance 2018 number 7. An ordinance amending 157.04 of the City of Dayton Code of Ordinances for the registration of vacant real property located within the city. This ordinance adds to the City of Dayton Code of Ordinances 157.04 requiring registration fees when registering vacant real property by allowing property owners who have listed the property for sale or attempting to rehab the property for resale or occupancy may obtain a second deferment from paying the registration fee for a period of 180 days, and a third deferment from paying the registration fee for 90 days from the city if the owner provides proof that a reasonable effort is being made to sell or rehab the real property.
First reading. Next is ordinance number 2018, number 8, closing portions of Front Street and Dodge Drive.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance 2018 number 8. An ordinance closing and abandoning unapproved portions of Front Street and Dodge Drive. This ordinance closes and abandons unapproved portions of Front Street and Dodge Drive and returns the property to the adjacent property owner, the City of Dayton, in accordance with Kentucky revised statute.
Thank you, that's first reading. Next on the agenda is ordinance number 8, 2018, number 9, amending the budget of 2017-18.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance 2018 number 9, an ordinance amending the City of Dayton, Kentucky's annual budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, and estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the city to the full extent authorized by KRS 82.082 and the Executive Code case law. This ordinance amends the budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. For the general fund, municipal aid fund, park board fund, parks, economic development, TIF, and the Sergeant Park Fund by authorizing $20,000 to be appropriated to the line item Vine Street Park.
First reading. Next is ordinance 2018-10, budget for 2018-19.
City of Dayton, Kentucky ordinance 2018 number 10, an ordinance amending the City of Dayton, Kentucky's annual budget for fiscal year July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, and estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the city to the fullest and authorized by KRS 82.082 in the interpretive case law. This ordinance amends the budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019 to the General Fund, Municipal Aid Fund, Parks, Economic Development, TIF, Capital Outlay, and Sergeant Park Fund.
Great. That's all I got. Michael?
First thing I've got a handicap parking request, 310 9th Avenue. The applicant meets all of the qualifications as set forth in the city ordinance. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve 310 9th Avenue for handicap parking.
If they meet all the requirements, I'll make the recommendation that we approve the handicap parking spot for 310 9th Avenue, Dayton, Kentucky.
Second. Motion by Ben, second by Bill. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Second thing, we participated in the reverse salt auction again this year. We had 2 bids that came in. Morton Salt was the low bidder, $92 a ton, which is up from last year. I'd like to ask for a motion to accept Morton Salt as the low bidder.
I'll make a motion to accept Morton Salt as a low bidder.
Motion by Jeff,
Second.
second by Bill. Any comments?
Michael, how much,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Joe, how much salt do we have left from last year?
We have over 100 tons,
We have
and
100 tons?
yeah, because the price went up,
How much did it go up from last year to this year?
almost $30 a ton. But because we have so much on hand, and we had still some left to get in under our old contract, we ordered another couple 40 tons or so. So we should have about 140 tons, which is about half of what we typically would go through in a bad winter. So we were able to get some more at a low rate. So I wouldn't anticipate us hitting our budget mark for next year unless we just have snow and get.
Do we have it on hand stored at Public Works?
The 140 tons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know because of the facilities up there being quite lacking in protecting it, that we've lost a lot. That's a pain in the neck because it gets all clumped up and wet and everything else. If we're gonna stockpile more salt, we've got to make better arrangements.
I mean, that thing's covered up there. Both of them are covered up, and whatever lumps go in it, that salt is sort of breaks it up as it spreads it out.
No, it doesn't. They gotta break it up in the truck before it gets down to the salt spreader. I've ridden on them a couple of times. Nonetheless, I was concerned about whether we had it on hand or if that was our reserve at the salt supply.
No, we can keep about 140 tons is about as max as we can keep up there at this point.
We got 100 ton right now, you said?
We probably, I don't know if the new delivery's coming up, we're gonna have 140 tons in the summer. I don't think we're gonna get much. And then the last thing I have is I've mentioned you all the last, oh, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And the last thing I have is I've talked to you all about it over the last couple of weeks. We have all the information that you all really needed, and was the reason that we put on hold the phase 1 design for the city building. Our current budget's in good shape, and we've gotten all that information from CERS, so I wanted to bring it back up for a vote tonight. Phase 1 is, if you all remember, this is the programming and preliminary design, so it's kind of our initial fact-finding phase that will kind of get us some baseline data for what the administration, the police department will need, room diagrams to determine space requirements, preliminary floor plans and site plans and optimal building locations, and then at the end, a project budget, estimated probable cost. At the end of this phase, I'll have all the information that I need to finalize a financial report, which I can then present to you all at a later time. So we can, at that point, decide if we want to move on with finishing design and construction of a new city building. So, I'll open it up for questions.
With that in mind, Michael, I believe this city council voted unanimously back in February to wait for the budget to be passed before we made any more further discussion or approvals of that. It was 6 to nothing vote. So
Yeah, I'm just going to come back in July and ask you the same thing, so I figured why wait.
because that's what council decided, because the budget has not been finalized yet. First reading.
Simply asking if there's a motion. If there's not, move on.
Fair enough.
I'll make a motion to move on with the city building design of phase 1.
I'm sorry, let me clarify. A motion to allow the mayor to enter into the contract for phase 1 at a cost not to exceed $35,000.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Bill. Any comments?
From the February minutes, which were approved by council, motion by member Neary, seconded by member Volter to table any vote on this phase of the project until at least the July 3rd council meeting, and that was passed unanimously. I sent you an email the other night asking how this can be put on the agenda legally. You didn't respond to me.
Look, I mean, anything can come back, for a vote.
I think it's disrespectful to council, so let's wait until July 3rd.
I think we have enough budget data that we can vote on it now.
The idea was to get the end of the year.
No, the idea was to make sure the CRS was approved.
And to find out what our balance was going to be at the end of this.
About the CRS and all the stuff.
And the occupational tax, et cetera, et cetera.
Got a motion on the floor. Anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, I got one. Joe, last time I agreed with you, back in February, that we needed to wait until more time. We did work on the budget. We believe we got a good working budget that shows that we can go ahead and move on. Only because what's the difference if we do it this month? It's going to come back next month and it's going to get passed next month. Either way, so why keep stalling with this thing? We need to do phase 1 to find out where we stand, to see if we can even afford a city building. This phase 1 may come back and say it's too much money for us, our budget and our auditors, and then say we can't do it. Well, why keep putting it off and putting it off? I just think we just need to go ahead and fight the bullet and let's move forward.
Get information so we make an informed decision once all the data comes back and the initial phase comes down. I think that's important to at least be able to make a decision on it, an informed decision.
Mayor, some of you people are not as old as me, and I respect that. But I've been around this town for a long time. Back in 1981, there was a gentleman in this town that had an idea, a vision to build a new school. His name was Jack Moreland. He went out and got estimates and got all the figures, and guess what? That's why we got a new school over there. But I also want to read something that I read. It's a book that I read every day. And it said, suppose one of you wanted to build a tower or a new city building, and I added that city building in there. Would it not be first to sit down and estimate the cost to see if he has enough money to complete it. Ladies and gentlemen, that came from Luke 14, verses 28. It happened in the olden days. It's happening now. If you want to make a political thing out of this, that's fine. But I'm telling you right now, we'll never know if we can afford a city building unless we go to phase 1.
My point on this is, sir, this council voted unanimously to wait until the July 3rd meeting on any vote. You put it on the agenda, you're asking for a vote. I respect the fact that you may want to change because the motion was made. I think this is disrespectful to council. As you said, Danny, it doesn't matter this month or next month. I'm not trying to stop this bill.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you are.
You can make that accusation.
I didn't. I'm just telling you how I feel.
Let's keep it to the floor.
Let's just ask the attorney, are we out of line by doing this?
No, you can table something and then turn around and re-bring it by motion. It's your decision on untabling it, bringing it back up.
Anyone else have any comments? Roll call.
Member Lynn?
Aye.
Member Burns?
Aye.
Member Neary?
It's going to happen anyway. Aye.
Member Baker?
No.
Member Ross?
Aye.
I say it, so ordered.
Last thing I have, there's a planning and zoning meeting here tomorrow night at 7 p.m. There's a new phase of Manhattan Harbor, a site plan that's being proposed. It's in addition to a project that has already been approved but hasn't yet started construction. So if you're interested in new development on the riverfront, that'll be here tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
Michael, is this something completely new?
It's in addition, if you recall, 2 years ago, there was an approval for what they're calling the transitional site, which was they took the first 6 single-family home lots and they converted into multifamily. Now they're taking lots 7, 8, and 9 and combining them with that transitional site. So it'll kind of be an extension of that. It's what the site plan says. And that's all I have unless anybody has anything.
Any questions, Michael?
On that issue earlier, Michael, is it a matter of that the ordinance is not strong enough or the enforcement is not strong enough?
So we have a contract with the county for Terry services through the interlocal, not the county, the other interlocal agreement with all these cities to share Terry for animal control. So Terry comes in and helps enforce our city ordinances, but she also obviously has to deal with the animal shelter, which is controlled by the county. They implemented this cat program, which was meant to capture cats, spay, neuter, and then release. They're implementing that program through the shelter.
And they got to release them where they found them?
Yeah. So Terry's picking them up, and the animal shelter won't take them because they only take the spay, the neuter, and then they send them back. So the problem is we can get the animal shelter to keep them. Terry can't get them to keep them.
Right.
So that's right.
Joe, I can add, this is working with county police for 15 years, and working with the animal shelter. The animal shelter don't have room for the cats.
Right.
And they don't have budget.
Right.
So if we can take the cats out, they have no room to put them anywhere. And so you get to the point of, that's putting them down. So it's something that humanizes them. So that's something that the county is going to have to work out with the animal shelter. That it's a constant, bringing the cats in constantly and other animals. I've been turned away with dogs and cats for working in the animal shelter because they just don't.
But my point is they're saying that this residence has more than 2 cats, which is our ordinance.
8 to 10.
Why are they not getting cited for having more than 2 cats? I think that's the third question.
We're doing what we can on that end, but that's a
Okay.
city ordinance.
So that takes time.
Well,
That's a typical, go before the code board, or?
You appeal it, if not, you pay the fine.
But there's a gray area because they're saying they're not her cats. They are stray cats.
Okay.
So we can try to enforce the 2-cat limit. The county is acting like they're stray cats. So they'll take them, spay or neuter them, they'll bring them back. They won't keep them.
Pack a dog would be a different conversation.
Oh yeah.
Is that an abandoned
house?
Mike, was that an abandoned house, 316, or somebody lived there? That are not stray cats?
I don't disagree, but they're not taking my interpretation.
The animal shelter, I guess, is in disagreement with our interpretation.
Anyone else got any questions for Michael? If not, do we have any correspondence? Let's jump back up to our left. Department head, Chief Hector.
I didn't have anything. You guys have my report for the month of May.
Officer Loud.
If I missed anything on the cat side.
Yeah, Council, good evening. Before I go into my report, I'll go ahead and touch on 316. This actually started probably almost a month ago. So before Mr. Culp had gotten a hold of me, I'd already worked on this. I had issued 3 violations to the owner of that residence. One for the rubbish and the trash and everything that has been kept in the yard. The other one, I hit him with rodent infestation, which kind of covers rodents, with these cats not being considered as domesticated or being wild animals, and the fact that the openings were under this house, that really anything could get under there. Raccoons, any type of animals could get under there. I hit him with that as well as the violation, and I also hit him with a violation for the building. I gave him 2 weeks to handle the infestation and the rubbish, and that wasn't done. As I explained to Mr. Culp, it is a time, there are time issues. And I explained, I said, you could sit on your porch for another 2 months and not see anything happening in front of you, but there are things happening. So he's been issued 2 citations for the rubbish because it wasn't done in the designated time that he was given, which was 2 weeks. And the same for the infestation as far as covering up those holes in the side of the building. There were 3 holes. There was 1 hole on the east side, and there were 2 holes on the west side. The first time I went back there, they had put up a little bit of, it looked like particle board with holes so the air could still circulate. Well, those were easily pulled down, and 2 of them were pulled down by the next time that I went there. So I contacted him, Mr. Borland, on the phone, met with him, he met with me, Bob was with me as well, and I just basically laid it on the line and told him how it is. He has 2 citations. I gave him the option to appeal those, which he probably will, and then he was issued a second violation for both of those. So now he has 1 violation, which gives him, I believe it's until sometime later in June or July, for the building issue, which was either paint or roof and gutters. I'm not sure which one it was, but it's in my report. But the important thing was you all were talking about the cat. So I have been working on that vehemently as far as talking to him, explaining to him. If I hit him with a $250 fine, it's better than hitting the owner, the resident, with a $15 fine. We're trying to collect $10 from her for 2 cats that she says she does own. So I'm negligent in that for not going after her to make her get those, the little license tag for her 2 cats that she says she has. I hit the owner, and when I hit the owner will hit his resident. So I'm working on it where I think that we can get the most accomplished in the quickest amount of time. So he has put small fencing, wire mesh on those, and put screws in there that they're not going to be taken down and pulled out very easily. And I explained, when you come for the appeal, I'll be there the day of the appeal, and I'll take pictures. That's my protocol. I'll take pictures that day, and I'll have pictures from when I started, and I'll have pictures from the day of the appeal. And when we come in for that meeting that night, I'll have my evidence and I'll have my case set up to submit to the board. And then I'll give my recommendation on what I think they should do. Their option for a first offense is, his first fine is $250. Once you go in front of the board, that changes. Now you can be fined as little as $50 or as much as $500 for the first offense, or they can dismiss it. So that is the board's 3 options. I give them my recommendation based on whether the homeowner, and it's always the homeowner, it's never the resident, it's never a rental person, it's always the homeowner, whether it's rental property or what. The fines, the citations, and the violations go to the resident owner. Who owns the residence, whether they live here or not. They're the ones who have to come if they choose to appeal. If they don't appeal, within the 7 days, the fine stands for $250. They either pay that or it gets added to the property taxes. So that's how that works, and that's where we're at right now. He's been issued a second violation based on the first 2 issues and 1 citation. So we'll follow up on that in another 2 weeks. Anyone have any questions on 316?
I just want to make a comment. He's an absentee landlord. Because he lives in Cincinnati. I'm looking at your...
That's correct. That's correct. He is an absent. And unfortunately, sometimes we really don't have any control over that. But I try to reach out and find them no matter where they are.
Hit them in her pocketbook.
Okay. Any other questions for 316? All right. My closed case report, you all got to review that. I closed 30 cases for the month of May. That's pretty self-explanatory for whatever reasons they were. The activity report I issued, there were 99 violations and or citations. 78 were violations, 20 were citations, and 1 was a grass cutting invoice. Of those, 11 were issued for failure to register vacant property. 10 of those were violations, 1 was a citation. The reason for the high number is I issued 20 citations and or violations for grass and weeds. With it being summertime, we've been a little extra busy. In addition to that, I went ahead and threw in there, I am doing complaints on vehicles as well, which kind of falls under the police department, but when I get calls on these, I go ahead and follow up on them. For the month of May, I issued 13 city citations. Of the 13 that I issued, 7 vehicles were towed. Okay, so there's usually a substantial reason if I get a complaint or roll up on one, if I'm going to tow it. The majority of those tows were expired tags that were 4 months to almost a year. And it's kind of one of those things where you roll up on it, you kind of just have to be in the right place at the right time to see it. I mean, a car can drive for 9 months to a year with expired tags and you just miss it. I mean, you guys know what it looks like. It's that little square thing on the bottom. Well, sometimes if I don't put these glasses on, I can't even see that. So just to give you an idea, if you're in the right place at the right time, you're going to run into that car. So I towed 7. Of the 7 I towed, 4 were Kentucky tags, 2 were Ohio tags, 1 was North Carolina tags. License plates, 4 Kentucky plates, 2 Ohio plates, 1 North Carolina plate. Of the 13 tags I issued, citations, city citations, 6 were for Kentucky license plates, 6 were for Ohio license plates, and 1 was for a North Carolina license plate. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? I did remove that flag. I did get rid of that flag that you were...
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
See on your report, something was 701 Boone, but 703 Boone, I believe is the correct address. I mean, I can't even find, I don't know.
Well, you're right.
You know the house I'm talking about?
Yes, and I'm probably, by the end of this week, that'll be listed as condemned again.
I was thinking Rich condemned it, didn't he?
Yes, but I don't know whether it was lost in the translation because he never went any farther. Nothing else happened, there were no citations issued, and I've been exhausting kind of every resource I had trying to find someone to get this information to. That's kind of the problem with some of these.
Because truthfully, by the end of summer, you probably won't even be able to see this house. I mean, it's about covered with trees.
That's very true,
brush.
and I mean, I hate to say this, but with it kind of being off to the side there, it's probably best that we don't cut that grass because that's going to be, just open it up even more to vagrants. We're going to secure it again. It's been open, so they have broken in. It was secured, and we just found out this week that they broke in again, and the ambulance took somebody out of there actually last week or the week before. So we're going to secure it again, but sometimes finding these owners, we have some people who end up deceased, and it's not moved to their kids, and it's, I mean, exhausting some different apps and things that I use. I can't even come up with a next of kin for some of those places.
So they've already got the $500 fine for not listing it as vacant?
For that place?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Really, if there's no one to hand a failure to register it.
You put the $500 lien on the property.
Right. Well, it's $250. It's $250. Then, well, it's $500 when you register your property. If you have a vacant house and you register it, you pay $500 a year.
Right.
Okay? To go through the process, I issue them a violation. I give them 2 to 3 weeks, depending on where I'm sending that letter to get that registration into the city.
Right.
Once they don't, I issue them a $250 fine, a citation for $250. And then a second violation goes out requesting them to send that in again. It's just the same process as within code, as with all of the code. The second time they don't get it in, it's $500. Then I send them a third notice of violation that you have not submitted your failure to register a vacant property. Once they don't get that in the third time, then it becomes a $1,000 fine. So it would behoove them to register for $500 a year over 3 years instead of paying $1,750 in 1 year. So that's how it works. It's $250, $500, and $1,000 without appeal. Okay? And then obviously if they appeal, depending on whether it's their first citation, second citation or third citation will depend on what the option of fines are, as if it goes in front of the board. Any other questions?
326 Fourth Avenue.
Yes, sir.
But what's going on with those guys?
Is that in my report?
I don't think it was. It was one that's changed hands to New York or something like that. It's the house right there on Fourth.
That's the guy in California.
California.
Okay, he has done a roof. There is a roof, and the siding, the bad siding was pulled off, and he's gonna be down here this summer to get it all painted and stuff. I've talked to him about cutting the grass, so I'm probably gonna get someone to cut the grass for him, and he's gonna pay that.
Okay.
But as far as the siding that was hanging is gone, and the actual roof itself was replaced. There's
Not
still,
the tarp?
there's still gutter, no, not the tarp's gone. But there's still gutter issues, and there's still siding issues, and there's still inside issues. So with him taking over, I have to give him 60 days before.
That's been 60 days.
Uh,
And I've been asking about that for a few
Well,
councils.
no, that's true. That, it has been longer than 60 days. I'm talking about the failure to register. If I see, I know he's absent, but there was no one there. There was no one at all. At least he has come in or hired some people. I'm not sure when he actually did it, but they have done the roof and they have pulled down the bad siding.
Okay.
So, like I said, we don't really want everybody's money. We want them to fix the property. So if I can see that someone is putting forth an effort to improve the property, then I'm going to, which I'm allowed to do based on it, is give them a little bit more time. And so that's what I'm doing. If I see that he chooses to not do anything, then I'll hit him with the fines, and then they'll go up each time. But
I think it was about a year ago, though, there was a cat issue at that house.
Okay.
And the neighbors across the street, they took me around the house and we counted like 6
Right.
cats. So that's just kind of what I'm trying to prevent. Is,
Right, well, if there were cats there now, they'd starve to death.
That's what I might spend.
Well, I don't think there's enough to feed 8 or 10 cats, because it doesn't look too good there. I wouldn't want to walk through it, so the cats probably aren't happy either. But I am working on that one as well. I know the one you're talking about.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Anyone else? Anything else? Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
You're up.
I want to thank you for your support, and I changed my name on my report to the Economic Development Director's report. So I was sitting there. We had a Main Street meeting at Buck's Barbecue this last month. I think everyone kind of really enjoyed it. So for the summer, the Main Street Board decided we'll have our meetings on patios of local restaurants. So from the June 16th meeting, everyone is welcome to attend. We'll be having it at the patio at Hometown Heroes. In July, we'll be having it in Trotta. So in the summertime, we're going to take the Main Street meetings on the road. So that'll be good. I want to thank Beth and Doug and everybody. Kudos for everything you're doing on the I Ate in Dayton campaign and the picnic table. And I'm really glad that Beth could come here. Her and Doug have worked so hard on this to talk about this earlier today. We've got 4 CCAP facade and structural improvement grant applications out there flowing. I was hoping they would come in last month. They'll probably all come in the next week or two, so that's all moving forward. So we're going to have a lot of construction going on 6th Avenue. So I know that 301 6th Avenue is finishing up their design plans, and they also have a potential tenant going in there, so that'll be good. 620 is going to have a whole new facade and white box in it. I'm working with 720, which is next to Heritage Museum, the Gray Building. I'm working with that property owner. He's got a parking pad in process right now, and he's getting quotes for rehabbing that building, so that looks good. And the old Budfallers Garage on the corner of 6th and Main, they're getting quotes on electrical and plumbing and painting and all that right now. So we're going to have 4 facade structural improvement programs going on starting this summer. So I'm really excited and happy about that. If anything, I would let's get going. And every couple of weeks, touch base with them, hey, how's it going? So that's, we might have a lot of news next month, so that they're getting close. Submitted SNK grant application for phase 3, the Riverfront Commons trail grant. So we'll find out probably in 3 to 6 months whether we get that. So that would finish up the Riverfront Commons if we got that. Working with Turner Machine on the plans to expand their building. Turner Machine's on 3rd Street. Really kind of neat, small little machine tool shop. We do some really cool, making metal parts out of, leaving parts out of metal. Working with them, with Jim Parsons and the county to see what kind of incentives we can do depending on how good products we need. So we're just working on that. We've had 2 buildings. Last month you applied, you voted on expanding the grants for the parking pads. We've had 2 properties put in for new parking pad grants for that, so those are great. Every car we get off the street makes things better for everybody. And lastly, I'm going to thank everybody in Dayton for their support for the last month. Tough month. We'll get through it. That's what I say. I appreciate it. The city accommodating me and all the people who said time. Any questions?
Bob, can you tell me the occupancy rating down the industrial park? How much we got empty and how much?
I'm about 1,500 square feet available right now.
How much?
1,500 square feet available.
That's all?
That's it. And I was talking to somebody last week who was interested in that. So we're at 100%. And
excellent.
And we're talking, we need to start thinking about getting some half-acre to acre lots there. I think there's a lot of good demand there. Will Weber from the county and I have been talking about that, and we're probably looking at somebody 5,000-10,000 square foot building is what we're looking at. We don't have 25 acres, but it's a nice little niche for small, like Turner Machines when they came here. They started here. They had a very small building. They bought a garage around the corner. They've purchased the building next to them, which they'll be expanding onto that lot. So we've got a lot of good things.
Great. Great job. Thank you, Bob.
Any petitions? Council?
You got a report from the fire department?
The chief, the assistant, or the acting chief is on vacation. The clock work or anything.
Captain Richmond just apologized for not being able to be here, said he had his vacation planned for almost a year, but said it should be submitted, and if anybody has any questions, I can.
Come on up to the podium.
I said Captain Richmond apologized for not being here. Everybody should have a packet. Is there any questions?
I don't have any. When's the truck coming?
Say the next.
The truck's ready. It's just, I think they're still working on replacing the headliner issue, but aside from that, any time now, I think I'm not sure if the money's been released yet or not. That was getting the grant money to them was the holdup, so should be in. Well, actually, it'll probably end when Captain Griffin comes back because the sales guys in Ford also. So. Great.
Anyone else have any questions?
The next board meeting will be Wednesday, the 20th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I would like to, we never get a public works report because we like to hear from them, but I'd just like to say that I think Rick and his one employee did a great job for the parade, getting the city ready and getting the streets in good shape and that. And I'd like to, where are we with the as far as getting some help there.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, so, sorry.
The other two were hired Friday, the seasonal plus the full-time. They started to work today, and they're on bait pipe, all of them.
So we're back at the full strength.
If I could piggyback off of Denny's thing, I want to compliment Michael, and you can take this. Eugene was here by himself last week, did an excellent job.
Anyone else have any unfinished business?
Hey, what?
Unfinished business?
I got one item I could bring back up, I brought up at the last meeting, and nothing's been done with it, is that pothole, or whatever you want to call it, on Dayton Pike right at that bend. Last night, a motorcyclist almost got taken out trying to avoid that thing going around that bend, and it's a blind bend, and that car came around and just about took his biker out. And then also now down at the bottom of 7th and Boone, there's a big hole. But like I said, I brought it up last month. And
Yeah, now they're back at the full strength. I talked to Rick about that I guess it was probably 2 weeks ago since he was out. But yeah, now that we're full strength, I think we're gonna start getting on some of those potholes in this early spring.
That's all.
Yeah.
Any new business? Women unfinished. You have from last month, you
And Jeff is on vacation, so we'll report back. And the citizen that requested it was going to come tonight, she could not. I have an unfinished business, and I guess it's looking at the budget for next year with the park department, or the park budget and everything else. I don't see any line items in there for the Jamestown Pike Park. What are the plans for Jamestown Pike Park, or is that what we get?
No, there's stuff in the summary I sent. It's broken down.
Are we going to see a planogram for it? Is it the one that was proposed a couple of years ago? I'm not sure.
You know about the GRW's design?
Yeah, I thought we were going to, I remember the conceptuals that Leslie Carr did.
Okay, yeah, so there's kind of 3 elements playing into the Jamestown Pike Park as far as funding and implementation of that site plan.
Right.
First one is the grant that we have for the sidewalk, which is
Right.
obviously still under design. It's a little slow going through the state, but that's the design and the money for the sidewalk.
Right.
So that's one piece. Second piece we're going to do this summer as well, which is the parking lot at the top of the hill. We use municipal aid funds for that, so that's a second fund. The third would just be, what was the third? I'm not just one thing, but we'll have to implement the rest, I guess, as the budget. So I put a line item for Jamestown Pike Park for, it's not a whole lot of money. I think I put $5,000 in there, so we can utilize that for incorporating probably mostly vegetation and planting. But then we're just gonna have to incorporate other elements in the site plan
As we go
as we
along.
go along. But obviously, the main structure points of it, the parking lot and the sidewalk, we have funding for. Some of them are contingent on the state will release the, allow us to do that.
Understood. I understand about the parking up top, I understand about the sidewalk being a separate issue. The question I had was, what are we going to do with the rest of the property? Because it's not a park at this point that anyone
In the
but here
budget,
can
in the
use.
budget summary, I have a line item for that. I think there's 5,000. What I'll do is work with the park commission on what elements of the plan. It's nice that we have a site plan because we can refer to that and say, okay, based on the funding we have, what sort of elements of this do we want to work with, start incorporating. So there is a line item there that's dedicated to that part.
$5,000. Are you going to try to coordinate the park with the sidewalk? You're going to put a sidewalk up there?
The parking lot will likely come first, just because that's when.
And then the
we have those
sidewalk, and
funds.
then, okay.
But to get back to you, so I dedicated specific funds to each park.
Right.
But then within the park budget, there still is a maintenance and improvement line item that can be spread across any part of
Within
the
the park
park system that they see fit. So it's not just the 5,000, that's just what I'd like to specifically have locked in for that, but we can pull other funds for maintenance and improvements.
Understood.
Anyone else have any unfinished business?
I would like a clarification, sir, if you could. The motion was passed earlier to allow the mayor to enter into a contract that we spoke about for the design phase. I just want to clarify, that's for $34,000,
Is not to exceed 35,000.
not to exceed 35? And what line item is that going to come out of?
If you look at the, I don't have the budget ordinance.
Got right here, but.
I can't read it. I printed it out, but it's too small for my eyes.
It's coming out, it would be out of the budget ordinance, out of the capital outlay funds.
Capital outlay?
I don't have.
No, I've got it.
She got it.
So page 2, far right column, capital outlay. And it comes out of capital improvements, $160,000. It's not, there's several things in capital improvement, not just, that's how the numbers are, it's more than just,
Okay, the capital improvement is not coming out of economic development, correct?
capital outlay is not coming to that.
I want to clarify that. Thank you. That's all I have, sir.
So, yeah, that's all I have.
Yes, sir.
One more time. Anyone else have any unfinished business?
I do want to point out that in this budget, it seemed like a 3% increase for hourly employees on public works.
There was 3% for one member and probably like 8 or 10 for
I didn't see that.
There's $1 for one, and then there's 3%.
3% for this employee, which is about 8 to 10%.
Okay. Want to make sure that we're keeping up with the Joneses as far as other cities who are hiring people that we want to keep, because like Bill pointed out so eloquently, they did an amazing job.
And we started the new guy, I think, at a very competitive rate, so.
Anyone have any new business on council? We don't need no executive session. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Denny. Second. Second by Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.